What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? So for those of you that did not see my most recent Money Monday video, I'm going to link it in the description, but there was a bolo in there that serves as the catalyst for this video. So we're going to go take a look at the vintage hat market, and in particular, we're going to learn about the Sports Specialties brand. So let's get to it. All right, resellers. Vintage hats. First of all, for resellers in general, why are hats like so amazing to resell? Well, for one, when you find them in the thrift stores, they're incredibly inexpensive, right? So you're going to pay $1, $1.99, relatively cheap, easy to afford, right? Two, they're small. They're easy to store. They don't take up a ton of space, right? That makes things even better when you're accumulating inventory and you're running an inventory building business. Space is at a premium. So they're small, they're easy to store, that's a plus. And three, they're cheap to ship. They're easy to ship. And oh, by the way, I encourage everybody to ship your hats in a box, especially vintage ones. Don't ship them in a bag. Now you can take my advice or you don't have to take my advice. But if you look at some of the descriptions in the hats that I sell, I tell people that I'm gonna ship it in a box to preserve the item's integrity. And I encourage everybody else to do that as well. So yeah, hats are amazing. We're gonna dig into the eBay catalog in just a second, but we're here to talk about vintage sports specialties hats. So we're gonna do a little history on sports specialties because their presence right now is important in the grand scheme of things when we talk about professional licensing. So company was created in 1928. They are actually the first company ever to get a license with a professional sports team. That team was the Chicago Cubs. So the licensing market for apparel, it never even existed before sports specialties. So they're really responsible for creating the entire industry. Now they went on from the Chicago Cubs, they licensed the entire NFL. And this was all like brand new at the time. No one had ever done anything like this or heard of it. So they're an important fixture in the licensing market. And around the 90s, the hat market in particular, I'm going to say that like the early 90s, the hat market alone, the licensed hat market, was valued between 1 and 2 billion. So huge market, and they dominated that market, the market share during that time. So if you look for sports specialty items today, you'll see that Nike owns the trademark. I don't think the company exists anymore, but they own the rights to the trademarks, and so they're still making some sports specialty items. Those things don't command anywhere near the value that the vintage 70s, 80s, and 90s hats do today. Up on my screen I have couple of pictures of like what the logos would look like. The one we're looking for in particular, top left here, is Sports Specialties with the S, and you saw the hat that I had in the Money Monday video, and if you didn't, again, I'll link it in the description. Make sure you watch that one. So that's what the logo looks like. The iteration today right here looks like this, but again, you have to pay attention because Nike is licensing, or not licensing, but creating some hats that will, they look like the old version Sports Specialties hats. They just have the new and current updated like logo and branding on them. So pay attention to that. The two hats that we're going to focus on in particular are the Script and the Shadow. Those are the ones that seem to be commanding the most money on the resale market right now. We're talking about vintage sports specialties hats. So let's go back to eBay and we're going to take a look at the keyword that I have typed in, and that is vintage sports specialties hat. So at the time of this recording, November 18th, 2020, there were just over 5,000 listings for vintage sports specialties hat. But when you sort by the solds, you can see that there have been 3,200 solds. So that is almost a one list to one sell ratio for the past 90 days. It's almost 1 to 1, which is pretty good. Now we're gonna take a look. We're in the solds here, so I'm gonna sort this by the highest priced to the lowest priced. And we'll take a look at some of the hats in this catalog here. So you can tell This is a little bit of an anomaly because when you click on it, it says that the item was relisted, and then you click here again, and then it says the listing was ended by the seller because there was an error. The hat looks authentic to me. I don't know what happened. It clearly got 52 bids. At some point bid up to $12,000, which is nuts. But this is the shadow hat, and I'm gonna try to, let me bring up a picture so you can see just what I'm talking about for those of you that don't know. So Sports Specialties put the logo here, and then a shadow of the logo just above the top of it. So that keyword is important when you source a hat like this. So keep that in mind. That's what we mean by the shadow hat. This one was bid up to $12,000, but it's really hard to tell what's going on with that hat. So we just really have to move on to the next one, which was an actual sale, which was also a shadows hat. This was the Philadelphia 76ers. You can see again the logo followed by the shadow just above that. This got 17 bids. Bid up to $3,050. Now, 100% of the time, okay, let's say 99.9, when a Goodwill is pricing in the back, or any thrift store for that matter, this is going to get the $1.99 tag, and it's going out onto the floor. Most of them would never catch on to an item like this. So if you wanted to make like a number 4, what makes vintage hats so awesome, they're a lot less likely to make it to shop Goodwill, which is great for us resellers when it's Goodwill's job to sort of purge all of the expensive items and send them online so that people can get into a buying frenzy on auctions and whatever. So that's kind of a pain in the rear for us, but these are items that you really, really, really want to hone in and focus on hats for sure. So a shadow here, a shadow here. This is a draft day hat that sold on a best offer. And then here is the script. So when you see, there's 2 types of scripts that you're going to see regarding Sports Specialties hats. The double line right here, which is, you can see right here, the Los Angeles Raiders, that's 1 line, 2 line, or the single line, which was like the coaches' hats that they would give to coaches and players on the sidelines like in the early 80s. So those I think are even more rare to find. The majority of the script ones that you're going to see are the double script, just like this. Sometimes 100% wool, sometimes a wool blend, which really doesn't matter for a keyword perspective, but you definitely want to have the script in here. This hat here was made popular by some of the group members of NWA, these Raiders hats in particular, it's going to be $1,000 plus pretty much every time you find it. I mean, this is dead stock. It has the tags. It actually was undersold if you ask my opinion, but it's the Proline script. Okay, so you can put Proline in there as a keyword as well for sure, but people that are looking to spend this amount of money on a hat, you're not going to need that keyword. When you know, you know, you know. This is a Sports Specialties 90s script LA Raiders hat. I mean, it's like one of the grails for sure when we're talking about vintage hats. So here's another one, same kind. There's another shadow right here. Again, Raiders, San Diego Aztecs, that sold for $600. I think the one that sold in the Money Monday video I did was what, the Los Angeles Dodgers. That sold for a huge dollar amount. $600 here. This all looks like the same seller right here, Raiders, Aztecs, and Chargers, because of the background. Yeah, that's amazing. In fact, I'll show you right now. I just recently sourced, I don't know if you guys can see this. This is an Ohio State one, and it has the block O on the side and then the script on the back with a very old Sports Specialties logo right here, officially licensed. You can see it says Youngin on the back. I hope that is focused, and I hope that you can see that. So I might list that for $100. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, you're talking a ton of money when you find one here. So here's a 90s one, plain logo on the front, that sold for $501. Again, look at that hat. Goodwill's not catching this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's maximize it. It just looks like your normal, average, everyday hat, except the thing is worth $500-600 to somebody out in the wild. You can see that says Youngin right there. Sports Specialties. I wonder if we can get a better picture of the tag. Nope. But yeah, it is what it is. So we'll move on to the next one. $500, 22 bids. That is just crazy. Los Angeles Kings, Raiders, Lakers. I mean, you're going to make a ton of money. Here's the Chicago Bulls. Here's one that is corduroy that sold on a best offer. Not necessarily the script, but again, the important tag is the sports specialties tag. Once you find that, it's time to do further research. Here's the first single line that I've seen. So I think they called it the pro, like it was originally called the Pro line, which was the single line, and then the Mark II, which served as the double line. But I don't know. I feel like they blended those concepts in, and it really doesn't matter for us for sure. But you could put, you know, as a keyword in here, single line, because some real OGs that are looking for this exact style, they might use that keyword and they have the money to spend for sure. So this one sold for $500. Single line right there, sports specialties. The twill, also a keyword you can probably use that will get you in search. But these are so unique and like so kind of hard to find in general that you might not need to use the twill for sure. But those are like secondary keywords that are really, really important. I use that strategy a lot, focusing on what my key buyer keywords are, and then my secondary ones as well in the description when it's necessary. So there's a really good example of a single line. Again, Los Angeles dominating the market here. So Golden State Warriors won best offer $450, Atlanta Falcons. I mean, really, really neat. And the interesting thing about sports specialties is later on, they started to add the actual team logos to the script hats, but they didn't do that before. So that just goes to show you like the power of branding in general. I mean, this was a relatively obscure company that was just writing the names in a script font on the hats, no logo whatsoever, and they were that popular. So, so the strength of that brand is, you know, obviously still felt and seen today, but they weren't always putting the team logos on the merchandise, which is remarkable from my perspective right here. Here's Toronto Blue Jays, does have the logo on the front, $430. Go to your thrift stores today and use this as motivation. Like, check every single hat that comes out on the racks that's currently hanging, because there's money sitting there that people really don't know. And that's your opportunity to go out and get paid. So anyway, sports specialties, a small lesson that I wanted to hone in on, because I got the inspiration again from my Money Monday video. And I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you like, make sure you're subscribed. But nice little lesson there in vintage hats. And yeah, go out and get what's yours. This is Brendan, Dad Planet. Thanks for watching. That's all I got for you. We'll see you in the next video.